Welcome to this video from Persuasive Writing to Critical Writing, which is part of our Thesis Writing Tips series. Academic writing is very complex, and there are many layers in the way that we write. In our previous video, we discussed descriptive and analytical writing as the first couple of layers. What we'd like to focus on in this video is persuasive and critical writing. Let's begin by looking at persuasive writing. When a writer takes descriptive writing and analytical writing and adds an argument, the writing becomes persuasive. All academic writing on some level is persuasive. The means of persuasion depends on the discipline. In the social sciences, for example, some arguments are upfront and obvious, whereas in the sciences, the writer might deliberately try not to be persuasive but use the data or the methods as persuasive tools. The art of being persuasive has a long history. Aristotle, for example, described 3 kinds of persuasion, and it's useful to look at these, to break them up and to see the different kinds of persuasion. So logos is an appeal to the writer's, appeal by the writer to the reader's sense of logic or reasoning through the way the writing is organized. With ethos, the author draws on the trustworthiness or credibility to convince the reader. Here the writer could draw on authorities or something that points to the strength of the character of the writer. In pathos, the writer uses words to appeal to the reader's emotions and to evoke their sympathies. In academic writing, we most often use logos, based on arguments, where we propose an argument based on logic and reason. But we also use ethos, where we draw on authority, our own, if we conduct primary research, or others from published research. There are also research fields that draw on pathos, autoethnography, for example, and sometimes we use all 3. And what I wanted to point out, if you watched our previous video, that by breaking down rhetoric into these 3 constituent parts, we are conducting analysis so that we can see how they're related and come to conclusions, which is synthesis. So I'm asking you to analyze how you use rhetoric in your own writing. And just as a note, arguments contain a claim, reasons for the claim, evidence, and that could be secondary publications or primary data, and counter-arguments. If you want to learn more about this, please have a look at our video on arguments, where we go through the Toulmin argument structure. Let's have a look at critical writing now. Now, critical writing takes persuasive writing a step further. Being critical doesn't necessarily mean being negative. It means questioning the work of other writers and not just accepting the conclusions they pose. critical writing involves analyzing the argument and evidence being presented. This means unpacking the assumptions the author may have, seeing the viewpoint of the author, assessing the coherence and validity of the overall argument. So really what we're asking ourselves when we're being critical is, am I convinced by this argument? And if your answer is yes, then you need to explain why, give a critical assessment of why. If your answer is no, you do the same, so that in the end you are left with a reasoned conclusion based on a critical assessment of the evidence. So here's an example from a published paper, and while it's difficult to see the build-up of the critical assessment just in this one paragraph, we can see how that critical assessment is written into a sentence. While this model can be a positive experience for many, challenges within the supervision relationship have been widely documented from both an interpersonal and pedagogical perspective. Yet it is questionable to put the full responsibility of supervising PhD students on the shoulders of faculty members who often struggle to find a balance between their various tasks. So the words challenges and questionable highlights the critical insight, but you can see that the author is challenging or questioning what others in the literature have said about this particular field. So to summarize, persuasive writing often includes descriptive and analytical writing, but also adds an argument. Logos, ethos, and pathos are three ways of thinking about persuasion. Critical writing adds to persuasion by questioning what is written and not just accepting conclusions. Thank you for watching this video on persuasive and critical writing, which is part of our Thesis Writing Tips series.